How did the wisest man who ever lived end up involved with demons? How did someone chosen by God dare to command spirits with a mysterious ring? This is the hidden story that few have the courage to tell. If you're interested in the Bible's hidden secrets, stories that defy understanding, and dark revelations about the spirit world, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave a like. Let's unravel the mystery together. Before corruption, before idolatry, before the silence of the heavens, there was a man, a young king chosen, anointed, beloved. His name was Solomon, son of David. Solomon, heir to the throne of David, did not begin his journey among shadows and demons. He was born under the blessing of a divine lineage, in a nation that had been conquered on the basis of wars and promises. The request that touched heaven. Solomon didn't ask for revenge, nor gold, nor military victory. He asked for wisdom, discernment, understanding to govern the people. Heavenly response: God is moved. Heaven opens not only with wisdom, but with riches, honor, and peace. Open book, for as much as thou hast asked this, and hast not asked long life nor riches for thyself, behold, I do unto thee according to thy words. It was the beginning of a golden age. An age where the throne of Israel was not just made of cedar wood, but of advice that touched the soul. Where a man's voice echoed as if it came from God himself. That trial was not just a test of intelligence, but the revelation of a gift that came from above. Solomon was more than a king. He was the channel of divine wisdom on earth. But where there is intense light, deep shadows also form. The people rejoiced. The neighboring kingdoms admired him. But Solomon himself began to admire himself. And in that reflection, something dark began to reveal itself. Solomon's wisdom crossed borders. Kings bowed before his presence. Treasures arrived from all over the world. But the higher a man rises, the greater the abyss that forms in his shadow. Fame spreads. From all nations, men and women came to listen to the king's advice. Solomon wasn't just wise, he was feared, revered, and idolized. The golden throne, the divided heart. With glory came a silent danger, the allure of power itself. The wisdom that was once used to discern with fear now began to flirt with vanity. And with every woman came an altar. A strange god came. There came an occult ritual. What had been a diplomatic union became an open door for the sacred to be profaned. And in the midst of the gold, the music, and the beautiful words, the silence of God began. The same God who had once spoken in dreams was now watching from afar. Because the king no longer listened as before. Solomon built an empire, but at what cost? The people were applauding. The temple was under construction. The image of the anointed king remained untouched. But behind the scenes of the soul, something had broken. And when the heart begins to droop, the spirit begins to fall. It didn't happen all at once. There was no thunder, no earthquakes, just soft footsteps, almost imperceptible. The king who had been chosen by God now walked through corridors where the Lord's name was no longer whispered in awe, but divided, shared, exchanged. Doors opened by political alliances. The politics that were once supposed to protect the people now become a channel of contamination. Each alliance brings not just culture, but cults. Not just princesses, but entities. What began as politics has become liturgy. What was diplomacy became ritual. Solomon's heart didn't split in an instant. It fragmented, altar by altar, woman by woman. And his heart was not perfect toward the Lord his God, like the heart of David his father. 1 Kings 11 verse 4. Worship continues, but with a mixture. Solomon didn't completely abandon the God of Israel. The temple was still built. Sacrifices were still offered. But the throne, once exclusive, was now shared with others. The sin was not denial, it was mixing. Spiritual syncretism, the attempt to unite the sacred with the profane. The true God was now placed alongside idols, as if they all deserved equal space. And that is a spiritual abomination. There is no neutrality on the spiritual throne. Either God reigns, or the throne is usurped. And at that time, Solomon's throne was shared by gods who demanded fire, blood, and silence. As the temple rose, the presence began to leave. The worship continued, but the glory no longer responded. Because where there is mixing, the Spirit of God does not remain. And in the echo of that silence, other voices would begin to whisper. For a long time, God spoke to Solomon, in dreams, in wisdom, in direction. But there comes a time when the silence of heaven begins to echo louder than any answer. The worship continues, but the presence is gone. The sacrifices continue. The priests still serve. The songs are still sung. But the glory is gone. The glow that once filled the temple now doesn't respond. The king still rules, but he feels the emptiness. Solomon maintains the image of power. The people still revere him. But inside him, something is broken. The dreams have stopped. Revelation has stopped. Spiritual discernment has gone out. Where once there was fire, now there is smoke. Where once there was light, now there is shadow. The throne is intact, but the heart is hollow. And in that emptiness, new voices approach. Ornias, the dark spirit. A young palace servant begins to report strange experiences. He wakes up at night with a heavy feeling in his chest. Energy sucked out of him. Unexplained fear. Unexplained tiredness. Other servants begin to show similar symptoms. Solomon listens with unusual attention. Something in that story resonates within the king himself. He too feels the emptiness, exhaustion, the absence of spiritual life. The name Ornias began to circulate discreetly among the temple servants. It was a spirit, a parasite of the invisible, a silent devourer of life force. It didn't scream, it didn't destroy, it just sucked. And the king, curious, decided not to pray, but to investigate. The king swaps devotion for research. Instead of fasting, Solomon rummages through archives. Instead of looking for prophets, he looks for ancient scrolls. He begins to consult ancient traditions, obscure writings, texts from pagan peoples. Change in spiritual focus. The man who was known for listening to the voice of God now seeks out whispers from the occult. The palace, once filled with the divine presence, now holds closed, sealed, secret rooms. The Ornias spirit was only the first. The harbinger, the initial whisper. The veil had been torn, and Solomon was about to cross a line of no return. The king who once had an altar was now on his way to build a throne for those who dwell in darkness. Solomon's story is not just an ancient tragedy. It is a mirror for all those who seek power without purity, wisdom without obedience, glory without holiness. May this story remind us, not every throne is eternal, but every knee will one day bow before the true King, the Lord of hosts. If this story has touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and share it with those who need to understand that wisdom without fear leads to perdition. See you in the next dive into the depths of Scripture.